Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. I am trying out something new today. So I am going to do a recording via Zoom. And then once I'm done with this recording, I'll upload it to all my different platforms. And that way you can play it later. And so today I want to discuss interviewing because many times I know that people go on an interview trying to just prepare their questions for the interview, but you also want to make sure you're interviewing that company as well. So I wrote down a few tips that I want to go over. And the first one I want to start with is reviewing the job description. So anytime that you are about to interview for a position, you want to make sure that you thoroughly go through that job description. And I'm not talking just about the basic qualifications. Reading that job description from the very first line is very important because many times those first few sentences tell you about the company. They'll tell you when it started, who possibly founded it, what department you'll be supporting, just a little bit more background on the company to help you get your research started. Because before you go into that interview, you want to understand what that company does, their values, their mission, their culture, all of those things. You want to see what you can find out, because then if you find that there are any gaps when you're looking into this information, you can always ask those questions during an interview to get more clarity. And then the other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing as you read more to the job description is paying attention to the responsibilities and what your day-to-day task will be. Again, during this portion, if you happen to find any gaps, this will be a good time to ask those questions during the interview. So let's say, for instance, they'll tell you what your responsibilities are, but it's more of a high level and you aren't able to really truly see what the day-to-day looks like. Then you can dissect that a little bit more in your job, in your actual job interview. And it will also show that you're paying attention and that you're engaged in regards to this opportunity, that you aren't just out there applying for any role. You are really taking the time to understand what it is this company is looking for and identifying areas to where you actually align by understanding what this role entails, outside just the words being mentioned in the job description. And then as you go a little bit lower, you'll see the basic qualifications. Inside of those basic qualifications, pay very close attention to any skills, such as technology or any functional skills, soft skills, people you're interacting with, whether those are business stakeholders, B2B, B2C, maybe you're interacting with technical, non-tech, whatever it is. If it's asking for excellent communication skills and verbal and written skills, all those things you want to make sure that you tie into your interview. And it's also being encompassed into your entire story, which I will touch on a little bit as well. So that's the first part. You want to analyze the job description. The second thing that I have is identify at least one quality that they're looking for. So inside that job description, when you go through the responsibilities section, you'll be able to see that typically there's something that's repetitive. So you'll either see in the very top sentence where it'll tell you what they're looking for, and then you'll see in the responsibility, it'll mention something that aligns to that. And then you'll go down to that basic qualification. And typically, again, it's that very first line that mentions that thing again. So whatever you see where there's duplications of things that are being asked for, make sure that you speak to that quality and that you show that you can bring that to the table. The other thing that I want to mention around that too is that it's not always about the data piece. You want to tie in your interpersonal communication skills, like I mentioned earlier before, how you interact with stakeholders, because if it's a heavy client-facing position, you want to show your ability to deliver for customers, and your ability to earn their trust. And that's very, very important. If it is more of an analytical position, then you want to show your ability to analyze data, do research. Maybe you have to understand dashboards going into databases. Maybe you have to write SQL queries, understand Tableau, different dashboards, visualization, whatever it is, make sure you can speak to it. All right, diving into the third thing, decide on a question you would like to ask in regards to that specific skill set. So any of you, if you've ever taken my training or my interview preparation training, or if you purchased the interview prep guide, you'll see there's a list of questions of what you can ask the interviewer. And so those questions are really, really good to ask. I even ask those questions myself when I've interviewed, as well as many people who have read that guide. But I want to make sure that you understand, not only do you want to pick from those questions to ask, but make sure you're asking skill-specific questions to the job that you are interviewing for. That also shows your engagement, as well as your ability to understand and keep your focus on what it is that this company is looking for and why they're interviewing you. So make sure you're answering those questions directly, as well as asking similar questions to gauge further. And some of the questions that you can ask around when you're asking the interviewer, you can ask about their own experiences. You can ask about the company, maybe the company culture, especially during right now with times into COVID, things have changed a lot. So even different communication, what kind of model do they have? Are all the employees working remote? Is it a hybrid model? Just what are the plans for the future? Because all of that is going to involve you if you decide to move forward with them. And then asking questions about the job. What are those things that you need to accomplish within the first 30, 60, 90 days, or even within the next 6 months, as you begin to ramp up on that role in order to be successful? I find that as gold when I ask that question, because I go in the door already ready with my eye on a goal that I want to achieve. And many times when I ask that question, I notice that managers typically give me an answer that's above the goal, which I don't mind, because since I'm aiming that high, then I have no choice but to land amongst where I'm supposed to for that role. So sometimes those expectations could be a little high, but that's the point of a goal. You want to aim high. And then try to knock out as many of those goals as possible by taking small individual steps towards it. And then the other thing that I want to make sure that I note when you're interviewing, it's very, very important to understand and have a story for each question that is being asked of you. So understanding what your story is, your experience, what you can speak about, what you have done in your past, how it can relate back to the job. Be able to tell that story. And as I always tell people, spell it out into that STAR method. So that's that situation, task, action, result, putting it into that order so that it's easy to comprehend and easy to understand, as well as get your point across, and always add data within those stories. Last but not least, make sure that you have not just a list of questions, but you actually think through those actual questions. If you find that you're in the interview and maybe the question that you have doesn't necessarily relate anymore, it's okay to restructure that question and make it fit more of a situation. So don't just go in there as a robot and have something rehearsed. But that's the beauty of being able to research the job description. You've researched the role by this point. You understand your background at this point because you put together your resume, you know your story. So being able to not just be monotone, but remembering to have a smile on your face while you're talking. That smile goes a long way. And keep in mind that you are doing virtual interviews a lot these days. Many companies, they are seeing you through the camera. So make sure your background is set up efficiently. I have a YouTube video with more about that on my station, that you can find out more about how to properly prepare for a virtual interview. But other than that, I hope all these tips have been helpful for you on this beautiful day. And I just hope you continue to have a blessed week. That's it for now. And thank you for tuning in to Career Chats with Coach Karie. Have a good one. Bye-bye.